11.
No, we're
I see
literally
my clock
right
says 11
on
o'clock.
time.
Yeah.
I mean,
Boom.
you know, if you're early,
Wow.
you're on time. If you're on time, you're late. You know, but you know, that's not. We don't have to go.
Depends what culture
We
you're
are
in.
on time. We are live right now. Hello, everyone.
My brother's in the Marines, and they always say if you're not 15 minutes early, you're late. That's a little crazy to me, but I'll take 5 minutes early.
Well, yeah, we're here. We're here.
Hey.
This is fun. I can see us on this Snapdragon X Elite laptop. Like I'm.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Look at this. This is.
Make your best. No, just kidding.
Yeah. This the show is powered by Snapdragon X Elite. Just kidding. It's not. That's
We're on
X86 over here. We're on the show.
Which one is that? That the Samsung?
This is a Samsung Galaxy Book Edge 4. Something like that.
Yeah.
You know, some great name like that. Yeah, I mean, hardware-wise, it's actually pretty good. It's super thin. It's 14-incher, not bad. But
I haven't had a chance to play with anything near that thin and light in 2 or 3 years. I can't even imagine how affordable they must be these days.
I just hit the Copilot key, and it pops up. Hey, good morning. Let's get started with your conversation. What should I say to Copilot? Should I say? I need to watch The Full Nerd. Let's see what it says.
Probably going to be wrong.
I don't know. It's taking its time. Wow, this is... I'm connected to the internet. Yeah. Yeah, okay. Am I supposed to do something? I typed it in and it's just sitting here not doing anything.
Thinking to trust you or not.
Oh, there we go. Certainly. If you're interested in PC hardware and building, The Full Nerd is a fantastic podcast to check out. Hosted by Gord Mong, Brad Charkis, Adam Patrick Murray, and others. It covers everything related to enthusiast PC hardware. You can find it streaming live weekly on YouTube, where it has built a community of over 350,000 subscribers. It averages 20
subscriber count.
Yeah, but that's on the PCWorld channel. It doesn't know we've moved. Come on, get on it. We moved to a new channel.
Gotta get those numbers up.
That's
remember to
pretty funny.
subscribe.
I haven't even tried to press the Copilot key yet.
Yeah.
The funny thing to me is they call them Copilot Plus PCs, and the big deal is everything can run locally on them. But then the Copilot key brings up Copilot, which goes to the servers, which it's a mess, man. They should stop calling every single thing Copilot.
Yeah. Oh,
I mean, like how they call everything freaking like Windows Defender or Microsoft Defender now. Naming has never been Microsoft's strong point.
I don't know if it is for any of the large companies, though.
No, I mean, like Microsoft in particular has never been great at naming.
You think it's worse than Google? Because Google is like...
Yeah.
I found some Google Buzz folder. I was like, what is Google Buzz? It's like, oh my God, you're talking about like 400 layers deep of things it's killed.
There's a difference between naming things weird and just murdering all your products.
Yeah.
I put Google a solid tie with Microsoft, but like even the vaunted Apple is pretty stupid. I mean they're all just bad.
They just put an I in front of everything. Well, I guess they stopped kind of doing that recently, right? But for a while there, it's just like, oh yeah, everything we'll just put an I in front of. That's
an ISSD.
Yeah, they started
ISSD.
calling everything Apple, right? That's the whole. I don't know why they went away from the I thing.
Yeah. Oh, I got a text. I've been having problems with my internet, and Sonic keeps texting me updates, which is actually nice.
Really?
It looks like it's written by a human. It's not, though. But anyway, we're not here to talk about... Well, we are here to talk about random stuff. Q&A, right, Gordon?
That's true. It is a random episode today.
Yeah.
What are we going to be talking about? Who the hell knows?
Yeah.
I don't. See where we're at in 30 minutes. Hopefully we're not crying.
Yeah, not a lot of news out there. But we were like, well, we
Very
got a backlog of questions that needs answering. I mean,
Should I
those
just
questions aren't going to answer themselves.
Should I replicate what you have up there? DDR5, Snapdragon.
Oh no, I have specific questions around those.
Oh,
so
all right, just as Q&A.
yeah. I just wanted to provide some examples of things we'll be talking about in the title. That's why. But we got plenty to talk about. Also, Falcon Northwest, hello, says have Copilot write Gordon's intro. Should I see what it says?
Yeah, try it.
All right, here we go.
I've done that a few times. Write a review of RTX 5090 in the style of Brad Charkis from PCWorld. And actually did not a bad job.
In the style of...
Really?
of Gordon Ma Ung. So write an intro for the Full Nerd podcast in the style of Gordon Ma Ung. Does that sound?
Boom.
Yeah. All right. Let's see what it says. You know, I should look at Task Manager. Is this running locally on the NPU? No, it's not.
No, I'm sure it's server
If
side.
it's in Copilot, it goes to the cloud. Yeah.
Psh, then why have this fancy NPU?
For the recount function that you can't use yet.
Okay, well, it did write an intro, but it's like 5 paragraphs.
5 paragraphs.
Oh, okay. So it's not a cold open. I should have said cold open. This is more like an introduction. Actually, this is not too bad.
But even 5 paragraphs is pretty long for an introduction.
Yeah. Should I read it?
Part of it.
Why not?
Okay.
Yeah, go for it.
Half the
This
first
is
paragraph, sure.
Welcome to the Full Nerd Podcast. Ladies, gentlemen, and fellow tech enthusiasts, I'm your host, Gordon Maung, the PC hardware whisperer, the silicon sage, and the guy who once overclocked a toaster just to see if it could run Crysis. Is that true?
No.
What the-
The Silicon Sage. I like it.
Now let's dive into the motherboard soup, the GPU gumbo, the CPU casserole.
Oh my god, I would murder this presenter.
We've got more cores than a pineapple grenade. That actually does something important. More threads than a knitting club, and more RGB than a disco ball at a rave. Joining me today are my trusty co-hosts Adam Patrick Murray, the man behind the camera who can make a motherboard unboxing feel like an action movie trailer.
What?
Brad Charkis, the wizard of benchmarks and the guy who once water-cooled a Raspberry Pi just because he could. And Elena Yee, our resident gaming guru who can spot a bottleneck from a mile away.
What? I'm definitely hallucinating. It is definitely hallucinating.
I mean,
Oh, this is so
Wow.
like if it would have put the Raspberry Pi thing with Elena, that would have worked.
great. Yeah.
Yeah.
I like the vibes, though.
Yeah.
Hey, again, it's truthy, man. They're truthy. They get the vibes right.
Truthy.
It's close.
True.
Silicon Sage.
Yeah, here we go. 3 more lines. We've got a jam-packed show for you folks. We'll be talking about the latest graphics cards, the juiciest leaks, and the most mind-blowing tech demos. Plus, we'll answer your burning questions from the live chat. That's actually, true. Remember, if your PC isn't glowing like a UFO in a summer night, you're doing it wrong. And as always, stay full nerd, my friends.
Wow. Like, this is so many layers to that. I don't even know where to start.
I mean, I would say that alone is a reason to buy a Copilot Plus PC. Look at that.
Everyone on the chat says 10 out of 10. Yeah. 11 out of 10 for truthfulness from Ziv. Hey.
Stay.
What we should do?
Truthiness. Not truthfulness. Truthiness.
Truthiness.
You could do that
should,
in anything. I could do that on my computer right here. I could hit my little whatever thing they dropped in here. And
No.
Yeah,
I went to Best Buy and they said Copilot Plus PCs and this is what they had.
I feel like we should have them write an episode and we act it out for April Fools next year.
Oh my God, that would be
Oh.
good. That would be good. All right.
I'm going to see if I get the exact same thing here.
Oh, that would be
Oh,
funny.
you never do.
Oh, you never do? Yeah. So I the prompt I put in was write an intro for the Full Nerd Podcast in the style of Gordon Maung.
The Silicon Sage.
Yep.
So,
I do want to steal that for something like
We should.
have like a
Oh,
little
yeah.
like
The Silicon Sage.
you know those old school like job title plaque things you put on your desk. You just have that in front of Gordon when he's doing the podcast.
The PC hardware whisperer, the Silicon Sage, the guy who once
Just Silicon
overclocked a
Sage.
toaster just to see if it could run
well,
Crysis.
well, now I'm thinking we just all need new lower thirds now for
Yeah, I know we
for
do.
our,
Yeah.
videos.
Jesus.
That is just I guess it just makes it up randomly, right?
It kind of trains off everything you've done in the past and what it has records to. But yeah,
But I mean, they've obviously had it listen to podcasts and the internet and YouTube and.
I mean, yeah, these are all. These are like it's in the clubhouse of what we talk about, and then for some reason gave us really weird, like
awesome
Did you-
title.
yeah.
Did you tell it who was part of the show today, or did it just like assume
No.
that was the
All I
Oh,
said was write an intro for the Full Nerd Podcast in the style of Gordon Maung.
interesting.
Mm. So it already
All right.
included Brad, Elena in it, and you as well. That's interesting.
All right, well, Silicon Sage, we should get started. Yeah. Oh, and then a friend of the show, CR Poll, says, Willis, he finished eating everything in Taiwan.
Yes, I have. I have
He's
conquered,
done.
I have
You finish,
conquered
you
the
just
whole
take
night
a
market.
break.
Yeah.
It's a little bit of break, but I've conquered a good amount of the night markets in Taiwan.
Really?
And a friend of the show, Dodia, says, watch out, AI is watching. It's true.
It's always watching.
The AI is watching.
But is it learning? I don't think it ever learns anything. It's just always watching.
You never know. So it's got to be trained somewhere, right? Somebody's training it. Somebody's in the background saying, train. All right, Gordon, let's do it.
All right, let's see. Where are my notes? 306?
306.
306.
So we're just Q&A episode, right?
Q&A bonanza with the Silicon Sage himself.
I need a new keyboard. My keys are all stuck on this thing. It's an old Razer keyboard that when you pile stuff, if you pile stuff on top of mechanical keyboards, all the keys get stuck. Yeah.
Who would
I didn't realize that.
You probably,
Who would've
just
guessed?
shouldn't put stuff on the keyboard.
What a best.
There's your review. 1 out of 10.
To be
It
fair,
gets
I, was
stuck.
gonna say, I pile stuff up on my keyboard, but in reality,
Really?
it's all the chip dust and
Oh,
stuff. I don't
okay.
actually
There we go.
pile anything. But I do
No,
for my keys.
I just imagine
No,
Gordon
it's-
coming home with a bunch of books and just like plopping it on the keyboard. Like, here's the best place.
Dictionaries.
Yeah.
Well, I haven't used this one in a while. It's just been sitting, and the stuff starts to build up on top of it. and
Okay. Yeah.
I almost wonder if you if you basically deal with all the keys, and they're just probably just a little sticky. So, but anyway, ready?
Yep.
In this episode of Full Nerd, okay, here we go. In this episode of Full Nerd, questions. Okay, let me write this out. Questions. You can hear me. Wait a minute. Why is it not?
Them sticky keys strike again.
Yeah, I can't select any. Okay, well, I can't
Questions.
even change my notes now. That's bizarre. Oh, okay, just normal Chrome just deciding to freeze. In this
That's one.
episode, well, good.
Sorry.
Keep
In
all this
this
in for the
episode of-
recording. Oh, no. that
Are we
was my
ready?
turn.
All right, I'm gonna really do it now. It's still stuck though, but it's all right. In this episode of Full Nerd, questions and answers.
It's a lot of takes.
Welcome to episode 306 of the Full Nerd. I'm your host, Gordon Mong, with co-host Brad Charkis.
Hello, Internet.
Lainey is here.
Hi.
Adam Patrick Murray is physically at the desk.
It's true. And Falcon Northwest says Copilot wouldn't be accurate until it puts in 3 false starts with Gordon doing the intro.
That's
Not
true.
wrong.
That's true.
Yeah.
And Willis Lai is freshly back from Taipei running the vertical and horizontal.
大家好, everyone. 我回来. Oh, wait, sorry. Let me change the channel. Hello, everyone. Happy Tuesday. I am back from Taiwan. Hi.
Friend of the show, Ivan, says Gordon is the Silicon Sage, not the intro sage.
Intro sage.
Oh, my Chrome started working again. It just basically froze for 5 minutes. Who knows why? So.
Well, it sounds like you need a Copilot Plus PC, Gordon.
Yeah, are you happy with that? I mean, obviously that's the buzz today. It just people are like, I want to know the final answers. Well, it's even though people have been releasing benchmarks all week on X on the internet, there's still no final answer. I think Mark's story ran today, right? Didn't it, Brad?
No, we had a review of the Surface Laptop 7 Up from Matt Smith. Mark is reviewing the Surface Pro. It'll be coming in a couple of days. He's going really deep with all the app compatibility testing and like talking about the experience. So we gave him a couple more days to work on that.
Oh, cool. Yeah, and I'm actually still working on mine as well. I have a Surface Laptop 7. I've been printing through the paces, and the results are, I will say, interesting. You know, I don't know if somebody asks about it, I will answer, but I'm not here to talk just about my testing or Mark's testing or Matt's testing. But there's plenty of stuff out there on the internet, and of course, Adam has his Samsung Snapdragon X on there. So if you want to ask questions, go ahead and ask. But
well, I have a question. What are your elevator pitch? What are your thoughts?
You know, it is.
I'm talking to Adam.
Oh, Adam.
I want Adam stuff.
You don't care what I say. I don't care what I say.
No, I care what you say. You go deep. I want Adams. I just opened this up, and here's what I think after playing with Qualcomm PC.
So I don't know if this is I don't think this is Snapdragon related, but the first thing that happened was that for some reason Windows booted into test mode. And because of that, secure boot was disabled. Like, I didn't notice until, I was configuring Windows, and then I looked at the bottom corner and it said Windows test mode, and I was like, Windows test mode? Why is it in test mode? That's weird. And then, of course, the Windows Defender thing was like, hey, secure boot's not on. You don't want to be, doing too much. And I was like, wait, why did it? Because I literally picked this up from Best Buy. So it came out of the box in Windows test mode for some reason. And I was just, I don't think it's a Snapdragon thing necessarily, but that was just the first thing that was just like, oh, I've never seen that before from a shipping device.
Oh, man.
Yeah. But
These came in hot.
Yeah. Other than that, the device itself is nice. I mean, it's a Samsung. It's thin, light, awesome. And then to tell you the truth, just high level, bless you. I have not run into any show-stopping things or anything that I'm just like, oh wow, I've got problems. Mostly just been doing what I normally do on the laptop: Slack, Discord, Chrome, all that kind of stuff. But then also was like, hey, you know what? This is not a gaming laptop. I don't think anybody, in the right mind would buy this just for gaming. But I was like, on the side, maybe I'll do some light gaming, maybe some indie games. So I've done a handful of indie games, and I'm not doing them in a head-to-head comparison, just more like, hey, does it run 1080p, without any problems? And yeah, no, it's just worked. Once again, I'm not saying it's perfect or that, oh, hey, this is a better buy over something else, but I was expecting to use this in a normal way and come into a couple things where I'm just like, okay, that didn't work, or that's weird, but nothing show-stopping.
Well, that's encouraging.
Quick question. I might have missed it. There was a really loud truck that went by. Have you done anything with battery life? And second question, have you done anything with GeForce Now or streaming gaming on that?
I want to do GeForce Now on here. I've not got to that yet. Gordon is the one going deep into battery life stuff. I would say I'm not doing anything head-to-head. Once again, I'm just using this like a normal laptop. It doesn't feel like, oh, wow, I never have to charge this. It feels kind of like a normal laptop, just using it normally. But Gordon, you've been doing more deep head-to-head testing. Like actual head-to-head testing, which video's coming soon. Don't completely spoil it, but what do you think?
Well, so I would say, again, so I have the Surface Laptop 13, Surface Laptop 7, but it's a 13.8-inch model, 54 watt-hour battery versus, and I'm putting it directly, I'm intentionally cutting down the test set to make it a lot more manageable. I'm putting it up directly against a Core Ultra 7 155H in an Asus ZenBook 14 OLED. That is a 75 watt-hour battery, but it has an OLED panel, which is a massive power suck if you don't have a black background. Mm-hmm. And I would say generally, battery life in the actual benchmarks, I run probably 8 different permutations of UL Procyon running Office. So I didn't want to do just straight video rundown because video rundown's pretty easy these days, and it just feels like you want to have something a little more real world. So if you don't know, Procyon Office basically runs Word, PowerPoint, Outlook, Excel, and it just multitasks between them until the laptop dies. Generally, the Surface Laptop 7 will give you, 11 to 12 hours, closer to 12, and the Asus ZenBook will give you about 10 and a half. Generally, very reliable. So 10 and a half versus about 11 and 3/4 hour. And I'm talking probably 8 different rundown. Sometimes I've tried it with 120 hertz on the panels. They're both 120 hertz panels. I've tried it with 60 hertz, Wi-Fi on, Wi-Fi off, but generally it doesn't seem to shift that much. And generally, even though it has a smaller battery, it will outperform the Meteor Lake laptop. But again, the Meteor Lake does have an OLED panel. And the way that Procyon runs, it runs with a white background, so you can't do dark mode in Office, apparently. It must override it as part of the benchmark. So it is at a disadvantage there. It does have a larger battery, so it's a disadvantage. So I sort of consider it a little bit of a wash. And, generally better battery life. But so as part of my testing, I really believe that, okay, that's pretty good. I've done 8 different runs, and they're so close. it generally feels like you're getting better efficiency. There's that 200 nits, which is what Procyon wants. So yesterday I finally sat down with, you've seen our device before. We have it coming up with a framework video where we have probably the best way to think about it is a reverse KVM. You have a mouse and keyboard that can control multiple devices. So I basically sat down with the Surface Laptop and the ZenBook, and I actually used them as though I was sitting in front of them. So I fired up Chrome, I sat in the browser, I scrolled down, I clicked on stories, I scrolled down, I fired up Photoshop, I fired up Discord, I fired up Slack, had those in the background, and again, still 200 nits, and rather than using Wi-Fi, because I was a little afraid, it was like, well, if one laptop has a little worse Wi-Fi performance, it could affect the battery life because now you're pushing the battery harder. I ran them both on direct connect Ethernet, so I shut off the Wi-Fi, and I did do some harder things. Occasionally, I did Photoshop, and then I did Lightroom Classic. I exported 700 raw files. I did a very intense spreadsheet recalc. I only did it once though, but I was really shocked that it was actually a bit of a reversal in actual use, which I don't really consider that hard. I was able to flatten the Surface Laptop battery in about 4 hours. And I flattened the Meteor Lake battery in about 5 hours. So I've only done one run though. And the one weakness of doing this sort of like organically is it's actually impossible to reproduce it.
Yeah.
But again, I'm using the same inputs to both laptops at the same time. So when I would scroll on each one of them, both browsers would scroll. If I'd click on a story, they'd both scroll. I intentionally left ad blockers
That's super
off.
handy.
Yeah, and I thought it was like it's about as close as the ground truth reality as you can get, and it probably tells you one of the problems when you always hear somebody and they will say, oh, I can get X amount of hours on this. My X gives me this much. I don't understand why this is so bad or why this is so good. And it's very much like when you talk to your friend and they have the same car you do, or you go to a forum and you read that somebody has the same car, and they'll say like, I'm only getting like 24 miles to the gallon. I'm like, man, I drove back from Disneyland on I-5 with a rocket box, a full, 4 people in the car, full of luggage. I got like 32 miles in my station wagon. Like, I don't know how you're getting 24. And this is like, I'm doing 78 miles an hour, So what, you just don't know. It's just one of those things. It's the classic, your mileage may vary. And sometimes I think in general, yeah, if you want to do fixed looping of video or fixed looping of scripts. People are trying to do a lot of scripts these days. I still don't think that's going to get you close to reality because nobody sits there and just basically runs one Chrome browser tab and scrolls through it, stops and waits 10 minutes. I mean, I did have some points like, you know what, realistically, we all screw around. I got up from my laptop, I walked away for 10 minutes because we all do that, right? I'm going to go get a cup of coffee, go to the can or something. So it's just sitting there, the screen is on, but nothing's happening. Mm-hmm. But all the stuff you have is open. And I was kind of like, I was a little confused as to how I could go from 12 hours in an office script to 4 hours in my use case scenario. So I'm still trying to unpack that. I have kind of a working theory, and I'm trying to test to see whether having non-native apps open could potentially be dragging the battery life down. Because I did that with a test where when I was actually doing the Procyon test, I tried to record the actual battery life of the impact on the battery. So I have a utility that lets me log the battery impact on okay, it's now using, 500 milliwatts. Now it's using, 20,000 milliwatts. And you would just see it spike around. But I went from 12 hours with this utility where basically you're running it all the time and I'm pulling the battery every 1 second and then writing it to a log file. Mm-hmm. It dropped to about 5 hours. Sounds kind of familiar, right? And that app is not non-native. So I'm in the back of my head, it's like, is it because I'm running non-native applications? So now, of course, as a reviewer, you have a responsibility to okay, I need to see if that's really what's going on. And so, but in general, the synthetic benchmarks all say battery life is fantastic. an actual sitting down and driving it pretty hard. Yesterday was a very hot day here. But again, Meteor Lake, in that test where I was logging the battery life performance, Meteor Lake didn't care. I got basically my 10 and a half hours on a Meteor Lake, but on Snapdragon X, I got 5 hours. It's like, is it because I was just running this one utility? I was like, well, it's because I'm right. Is it because I'm hitting the disk? So maybe the disk isn't right, going into an idle mode. But then if you're running a benchmark, the disk really shouldn't be idling that much either. So I just don't know. And this is the one of the terrible things about benchmarking. And I do want to encourage everybody who's reading it on the internet and everything, please don't just jump down the reviewers' throats. You should say, hey, thank you for all the hard work you've done, but everybody just simply wants to jump down your throat immediately. But
I can't wait. That's actually fascinating. I can't wait to see your video when it comes out. That's really interesting, actually.
Yeah, and so that's just battery life, because Lane 8 just asked about battery life. So I think all indications are battery life is generally better. It's not probably what I think the hype cycle would say it was. And then it actually, to me, makes me wonder, like, if I sat there and I took an M3 Air and I did the exact same thing as a Meteor Lake and a Snapdragon X, every Mac person will swear to God, like they will get days and days and days and days and days out of it. But like if you actually ran all of them do the exact same thing, would you really get that? Or is it just simply your bias? You're like, oh, I have a MacBook. Everybody says MacBooks give awesome battery life, and they do. Generally do. But is that simply your bias? Because it's not like you have a Meteor Lake and a Snapdragon X laptop and you're doing the exact same thing on both of them.
See, yeah, that's why I love the testing you're doing. Yes, it takes more because you're literally having to take the amount of time and sit and do it all, but at least that is the closest you can get to saying, hey, here's 3 completely separate things, you're doing the exact same thing on all of them. I mean, except for the hardware, I wish the hardware could be the same. I wish we could take out that variable and be like, hey, it's the same screen, same battery size, but I mean, that's just a little, you can't, especially if you're trying to put a Mac in there. Yeah, but at least you can look at it like, hey, we're doing the same exact things. Here's how it's coming through. I really love that stuff because, yeah, I mean, benchmarks are benchmarks, and it's good. Yeah. It gives you an indication, but it is really hard when people are throwing out these things of like, well, I got this, and it's like, okay, well, guess what? It's all variable. It depends on what you do. Yeah. So somebody was asking specifically, a friend of the show, CR Poll, was asking, I just want somebody to tell people how it does with printing and VPN. It seems to be an embargo on that information. Have you done anything around printers or VPNs?
I connected all 3 printers I have in my home. I have an older Canon 7000 series. I have a fairly recent 6000 series, and I have an ancient Brother laser printer. I could, and actually I was kind of happy to have my Brother laser printer because it is one of those things where I read on Reddit, somebody says like, there are no drivers for Brother laser printers, so you're effed if you have these. I returned my Surface Pro because there are no drivers for Brother laser printers or Brother printers at all for Windows, ARM Windows products. I couldn't install any Brother laser printer drivers, but I was able to install a generic PCL6 driver. Unfortunately, my Brother laser printer is long malfunctioned. I suspect I could make it work, and printer manufacturers often will take new operating system introductions to throw you overboard, to make you buy new, right? To make you buy a new product. Some of them are better about this. That HP is generally better about that because they have such a legacy here. But I suspect even though Brother is one of the ones that somebody says does not work, I'm pretty sure I could get it to work in generic PCL mode, and that is ancient laser printer repairman kind of information. Both Canon printers, I got the native Windows drivers to work. I could not get the native Canon utilities or drivers to work. So I couldn't go like traditionally. You go to Canon, you download the printers, you download all of their crappy, scan software and stuff that garbages up your desktop. I couldn't do any of that. So that if you have to have your crappy native printer drivers and utilities, it's probably not going to work. However, from within the operating system, I had 0 problems because I was able to scan documents, I was able to print, and I'm just using the generic Windows stuff. But you sometimes you want it because you want to update your firmware driver from the utility from the printer, and sometimes you also want to, you just like, oh, what's my print levels like? You're used to going to your crappy printer maker utility, and that's probably not going to work. I haven't tried VPNs yet, but there apparently are no VPNs that work with it from what I've been reading. So
I will say I did run into one driver that I thought was interesting. I was doing some like gaming, like I said, on the laptop, and I was like, oh, I'll connect an Xbox controller to it. So I have the Elite Series 2, and rather than going Bluetooth, which Mark did, he said it worked over Bluetooth just fine. I have the little Windows dongle to connect to it, and that thing, no driver. I popped up in the not test manager, device manager, and in there it gave me the little thing just saying, hey, there's no driver for it, so I couldn't connect via the dongle, which I thought that was a bummer.
That's right from Microsoft itself. That's not a great omen.
Yeah. But again, I was actually kind of shocked because
I mean, I could plug it straight in. I could do Bluetooth once again. So there are other ways to get. It's not like the controller was completely dead in the water, but the dongle itself, I thought that was weird.
Yeah. So and also like as part of like looking for ancient ass crap that people do to try to break these things, because that's what you should do as a reviewer. I broke out a USB optical drive. So I plugged that optical drive into it, and this drive is so old that it has a mini USB connector on it, right? So I plugged that in, and I didn't try to install, CyberLink Power DVD on there, but most people don't even use that anymore because VLC will actually play DVDs. I was actually able to play CDs. I was able to play a CD, and I was able to play a DVD using, VLC on Windows on ARM. So I was like, I'm kind of looking for these things like, because I want to be able to tell, because my focus is like, okay, if you're a normie and you go out and you buy one of these Snapdragon laptops, how much of if I pull out this USB key that I've had for 25 years and I have applications that I haven't installed in 12 years and I install it, is it going to break? I actually installed some old photo applications that I haven't used in like 10 years. It worked. I was able to, I was able to get DVDs to work. And I think I'm going to install Nero. I'm going to install an old copy of Nero and see if I can make Nero run on that. It's probably not going to be great on battery life, but I kind of want to see what that experience is like, because I can tell you on most x86 laptops, other than the operating system breaking it, it's probably going to work, right? So I kind of want to look for things. I'm really shocked that that Xbox controller thing doesn't work, because that's a Microsoft product, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Somebody should go yell at somebody in that division and say, hey, what's up with this? You're going to ruin this launch,
Well, Davina, a friend of the show, Davina says, you'd think there'd be an x86 compatibility mode for drivers as well. Just something to replicate the basic functionality, but I don't know.
I don't think you can emulate the drivers at the driver level, right? So.
Well, but the question I have, though, and I haven't run into this, have you ran into anything that reminded you of ARM on Windows previous to this? Like, remember when we I mean, there was a couple times, right? One of them, we sat down and you showed the two laptops side by side doing stuff, or when we were talking about the old Surface launch kind of thing like that, and where you were like, hey, it would load an application, then it would just like, it would take forever to load, or it would stutter, or just like, wow, this thing, yes, it technically runs, but it's just like, you wouldn't want to use this every day. Have you run into anything like that so far?
I haven't run into it consistently yet. I have had a couple times where things just kind of weirdly, like installing Acrobat on the machine, it tried to point to this bizarre, I got this dialogue, and I screenshot everything. So I got an error. It was trying to go to some Vista directory to install Acrobat, and it just errored out. And so one of the problems is it didn't complete. So I don't have the actual Adobe Acrobat, and this is the professional version. I don't have the Acrobat print driver. So, that print dialog is in there. The Windows built-in PDF printer is there, but not that. And the other thing that I didn't have because previously in that, I think that was a Snapdragon 835. So that was really like a phone SoC, right? That thing would just like in hip chat would just stop, right? It would just like pause, long, huge pauses. I intentionally created created fake Discord accounts, and I have both machines in Discord because I've read that people say like in Discord I get massive long pauses. I haven't run into it. It's like I went into the Full Nerd Discord in my fake personalities, and they're both doing the same thing.
He's lurking. He's always lurking.
So I would scroll up and down and everything. I would type.
I mean, I have Discord open right now during the show. Yeah, I haven't run into anything.
And it's just bizarre because, like, again, people have been rolling out reviews and like, oh, here's a gotcha. So I try to replicate their gotchas, and it works perfectly fine for me.
Yeah.
Here's something that we ran into in our own testing. Because, like I said, Matt Smith we have the Surface review up today. You can go read it on PCWorld. Mark's working on longer Surface Pro one. If you try to install programs from a drive, be it a save zip file, be it an exe or whatever, that's when we were finding compatibility issues. We talked to Microsoft and Qualcomm, I believe, about it. And they say if you download it directly, it works just fine. Because Mark was trying to install stuff off of a flash drive and nothing was working.
Mm-hmm.
But he goes in and downloads it off the live site and it works. So if you do see that might explain why some reviewers are seeing issues and maybe you guys aren't. Did you guys download the apps directly?
Sometimes directly, but typically I would copy them from a USB key over to the desktop and install because I don't install from the USB key.
Yeah, I wouldn't either.
All that said, between Mark and Matt, I'm gonna speak for them. They say in general, if you're doing normal people stuff, man, everything just works the way you're supposed to. There's some side exceptions, like Matt ran into some weird 2D game that refused to work. I guess Premiere Pro for a lot of people isn't doing very well. But
I can't even get it to install.
Yeah, so there are some exceptions. But if you're like, browsing the web, going on Netflix, using Office, like it should be awesome.
I will say, funny, and I just did it now. If I open up Acrobat, it does give me this files needed pop up, and it points to a Vista directory.
Yeah.
I got that same thing. That's funny.
Little beta.
So yeah, but it feels. I don't know. Like, yes, this almost feels like Intel GPUs, right? Where you're like, hey, you know what? It works. You just be warned. Here's some asterisks. You probably want to noodle with it a little bit, but for the most part, it works. I mean, and to me, this still feels different than what has happened before on Windows. Every time they push ARM on Windows, like it just ends up just crashing and burning. Where here, this doesn't feel like a crash and burn. I mean, there's definitely like things, but it doesn't feel like the same kind of thing, right?
I mean, I would put that as like it's a little underbaked, but it's not still coming out of the oven raw, like kind of like how it did before.
Yeah, no, definitely, because I would say it was all previous ARM launches have been complete failures, crash and burns. This one is, I am pleasantly surprised. I expected a lot worse, but there are definitely some things that don't work, like. Again, it's a hard stop for anything that uses AVX, AVX2. Just simply bonk. Does not work. It will simply stop. So like Topaz Video, there's a benchmark I wanted to run on this. You install the demo, poof, breaks. In fact, all the products that lean on AVX2, AVX will not install. And if you try to run Cinebench, it does normally run AVX, AVX2. It just goes nowhere. So that's a hard no, and that to me is really problematic, and I don't know how you fix that other than Microsoft or Qualcomm getting those developers to go, oh, we need you to write an ARM native version that's optimized for Neon rather than AVX, AVX2, right? So
yeah, and I did run into a couple other gaming things like I always like to use Afterburner to kind of gauge metrics. If I tried to run Afterburner and launch a game, it just always crashed the game. Like Afterburner just does not work at the same time as games.
By that one.
Yeah, so there's like I haven't been able to find a good utility for watching metrics during the games. Once again, I'm doing light load games, so I'm like I just put up the Steam frame counter and that pretty much shows, and I'm like, okay, am I able to run 1080p 60? Cool, it does it. Most of the time it's fine. The only other thing that I did mess around with, Mark was talking about the what is that? The auto super resolution that's built into Windows to essentially replicate like driver level upscaling, which I did mess around with a little bit. 2 games, Control and what was the other one? Resident Evil 2 remake, and both of those it actually ran worse than just running the app in that native resolution. So like when you do auto SR, I think is what it's called, right? It actually is on by default. So the first time I launched Control, I was like, wait, that's weird. It's only giving me the screen resolution option of like up to 800p or something. And I was like, but I know the screen is higher res than that. So you actually have to go turn it off, and then you get the normal stuff. And I was like, okay, cool. Well, I'll run it natively in the game at 18 or 800p, just to kind of see how it runs natively, and then go in, and auto SR essentially is just, doing it, taking that step away from you, and it was running worse, than just running it natively 800p. And I was like, okay. And I couldn't, at least me, I wasn't pixel peeping hard. I was just kind of looking at it, and like, I didn't see like an appreciable graphical fidelity difference. So that also seems to be a little bit of a work in progress.
Where we're going to see is more testing and time goes along, but I think Qualcomm kind of shot itself in the foot by coming out and saying it can run Baldur's Gate 3 and Control and all this stuff. Because if you just think of these as not gaming laptops, pretty much everything else you want it to do works. Like everything else just works. It's the gaming that's a little bit iffy, which is what you would expect on a thin and light Intel laptop too. You don't expect to be able to go into those and play all kinds of crazy games. So I feel like Qualcomm should have probably kept their mouth shut there.
But I mean, but I don't know, because I disagree. Like it feels like, I mean, because even at what it was low Control, it was low at 800p was actually getting, I can't remember what it was, but it was like over 40 frames a second, and I was like, okay, that's like, it was playable. Like I would never call this a gaming laptop, but if you're like, I just want to play a little bit of Control, like it was perfectly fine like that. But really, like for me, I would be like, you know what, I'm gonna play something a little bit on the side, just some sort of like, I loaded up a clicker that I've been trying out lately called a 64 or something like that. I can't remember. And it was just like, oh, okay, I'm just puts or Balatro, like, oh man, I'm addicted to that game, and runs completely. Actually ran at the native screen res at 60 FPS and had no problems. So like, I don't know. I mean, honestly, it's weird because I've heard a lot of people trashing on it for its gaming stuff and laughing it away, and I'm like, for its use case, it actually just seemed like completely, like, oh yeah, for its use case, it's completely fine. I would say that people are not, like, if you think about when the Steam Deck came out, and there were games that just wouldn't play, right? But everyone was like, oh yeah, it's fine, it's Linux, like you just understand. And I'm like, okay, well the same thing here applies, that there are some games that just either won't play, then why are you dissing it for that, but you weren't dissing it for the Steam Deck? Like it feels a little bit I
see where you're coming from, but I also think that it does, I can see Brad's point too, where it's kind of how you frame it, right?
Yeah,
so like Linux, like from the get-go, Linux has always been very heavily caveated, right? Where they're like, it's not always going to work. You're going to have to like, it's for people who like to not just have things work out the box. It's kind of my vibes when it comes to people who are like into Linux, right?
Yeah.
And that's actually not meant as shade this time.
Yeah,
It's just,
I was like, watch out, Elena.
Like,
They're coming for you,
like,
man.
No, like this is like a genuine, by nature, I think a lot of people who are into Linux are tinkerers at heart. So it's to them, that's why it's not a big deal that you have to like go here and like download this and like, tweak this to get it the way you want, because that's part of the appeal. So I think that's kind of the legacy that was carrying forward into the Steam Deck. So like people were, I think, already kind of primed for the idea that, okay, like not everything's going to work immediately. So it's almost measuring it from like, how much can it do versus, oh, it's not living up to expectations, right? Whereas like Brad's point, and I agree more with Brad, which is like, if you're coming out the gate being like, yo, it's a laptop for gaming, like that.
But they weren't doing that, were they?
No, they did. They did specific demos.
Not in our not in our interview with the dude. Like
with Mark, they showed Baldur's Gate 3, they showed Redout, and they showed one other game.
But they weren't
Like,
saying
they
this
made a
is a
big-
gaming laptop.
Well, they made a big point. They were going around and talking to all the different publications saying, look, you can game on this thing, which sets up people to believe you can game on this thing. And I'm just saying there's enough caveats going on with this that I think they should have just kept their mouth shut and let people discover what does and doesn't work on it.
I don't know. At least from what I saw, like I didn't see Snapdragon or like any of the Qualcomm people coming out being like, "Oh hell yeah, this thing's awesome with gaming. This is a gaming laptop." Like I think that's people inferring from those demos. Like,
well, I mean, if an executive comes out and says, "Hey, man, this laptop will be able to run Baldur's Gate 3 and Redout," you're like, "Sweet, you can play games on this."
which
And I
it
think that's-
did. It did.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
it lived up to that.
Yeah, I'm not saying they were lying. I'm just saying I think I would have promoted it like that.
Yeah.
Because now there's way too many caveats.
Yeah, because the thing is that like you're coming to it saying like, okay, I played was it Control at low settings at 800p, like,
Which is what I would play on a Steam Deck. It played just like,
but your screen's this big. So there's some differences there, and I'm just saying like from a reviewer's point of view, where you're just like purely testing something, you're like, oh, this is what this can do. That's pretty neat. I totally get your perspective. But the thing is that if you even imply to people that like this thing's built for gaming, they're not going to think I'm playing on low settings at 800p. They're going to at least be thinking about like medium, So like you're shrugging, but
I don't know. I'm sorry. I think people can read from it what they will, like because Qualcomm, I don't remember ever came out and saying, "Hey, you could do this."
we're not saying that
Yeah.
Qualcomm is like coming out and explicitly saying something. It's just that we've talked about this on the show before, where it's all about the messaging, like how you frame things and being aware of how people are going to take things.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, but you can never control that, right?
You cannot control it exactly,
Yeah.
but you can shape it and direct it.
The reason I think it's a kind of a bummer, just to drag this more positively, is because I do think from everything I've read and what sounds like y'all are experiencing, most everything else really does just work in some sort of way. Yes, there are edge cases like Premiere Pro, but in general, like these are long-lasting Windows laptops that just work, and that's great.
Yeah, well, and I don't know, maybe from my perception the other way, I expected this thing to be just like ARM things in the past. So maybe my expectations were so low that I'm like, oh wow, everything works fine. So like that, and that's on me. Those are my expectations because I was just like, this thing's gonna crash and burn, and I was like, oh, actually, I can play. Like, I don't think I ran into one game, and I know there are games out there, but I don't think I ran into any of the games that I tried that just didn't run, and they all ran like completely fine. And then like my normal daily apps, like I haven't, like I'm curious about that Discord thing because I do want to use it more on the daily. I haven't used it as much. But like I haven't run into any stuttering on the Discord stuff.
Yeah, it's odd, isn't it? I mean, that's the bewildering thing about it. Is every time I see somebody that has a problem, and then I go in and I read somebody in the review said like, the JPEG, it's great, but Lightroom Classic JPEG export, it got its ass kicked by a x86 laptop. So okay, great. Let me go look at that. So I went and I took 3,400 JPEGs. I exported them on Meteor Lake and I exported them on Snapdragon X. Snapdragon X kicked the holy crap out of Meteor Lake. I was like just shocked. Like it finished it in half the time that the Meteor Lake laptop did. Like it just blew through the exports. Because I literally read it on my phone. It's like, it's so slow on JPEG export. Okay, well let me take a look at that. Because again, you kind of want to like, okay, I want to replicate this. It just crushed Meteor Lake, and that was the thing is I'm running it plugged in, and that's what I got. But then, I'll tell you, when yesterday I did the 700 raw file exports unplugged because I wanted to like, okay, I'm gonna feed it something really hard now, try to crush the battery a little more because it takes 5 or 6 minutes to do this export. Both of them finished almost exactly at the same time. So I exported 722 raw files on the Meteor Lake and on the Snapdragon X, and basically they were almost dead even. So I don't know.
Early
it
days.
really is just a bizarre head scratcher of a thing, So
it makes it kind of fun though, because you're poking at it and being like, huh, what works, what doesn't work. Like it's I don't know, something about it is kind of fun at least.
Yeah, it is. I mean, I think that's why people are so, and I know the internet's kind of driven crazy because a lot of people have already come to conclusions. It's like, this isn't for me. I would rather just wait for Lunar Lake or wait for Ryzen AI 300 at this point. This is just a waste of time. And there's some people who are like, they're still super excited about it. But they want to be able to have a firm conclusion. And I don't think there is one anybody can make at this point, because what'll happen is there'll be some new firmware, some new tuning that'll drop a new version of Windows, and then everything changes all over again. So it's going to be an ongoing story for a while.
Yeah.
But like Adam said, it's going to be just like Arc.
Yeah.
Intel Arc.
Yeah. A lot of, except that the performance is not like Arc, because the performance is actually quite impressive, I will say. So nobody asked, but I'm answering that question. Performance actually, plugged in AC, very good. Unplugged, very good. I will say it's almost like but don't expect this like life-changing battery performance kind of like narrative you've been told, because I don't think so. I think honestly it's almost like Qualcomm made an Intel CPU, because one of the things I did is I looked at how much power. Well, I mean, you're also looking at 12 cores versus 6 plus 8. I wouldn't even count the low power. So you're really looking at 6 plus 8 from Meteor, although you get the 2 low powers, but who cares about those two? And it, for the most part, it is just on plugged in performance is almost always slightly faster than Meteor Lake. There's some things where Meteor Lake is simply better because you hit the translation layer, emulation layer on there, and like in Blender, Intel is better. But generally, it is a really fast chip. But I recorded the actual power going into the laptops using USB-C. So just so you know, Surface Laptop 7 uses that funky Surface connector. I didn't use that. I actually plugged in a USB-C connector so that I could monitor and log the actual power going into the laptops. With the batteries full, it's not a perfect science, but it just generally tells you what the entire laptop is consuming, screen, RAM, power, motherboard, SSD, and everything. And they were, again, very closely matched where, Meteor Lake with its at the high performance was about 50 plus watts. Snapdragon X was about 50 plus watts. So again, generally a little bit faster, but you are not going to get like a life-changing amount of performance out of something that will eat 50 watts doing something. So it's just not going to happen.
Well, I guess to wrap up this we ended up talking a lot about Snapdragon.
Yeah,
I mean a lot of questions. Well, a lot of questions.
I have a question though.
Yeah.
I have a question about this though. So does that mean I can still extend the topic?
Oh no, yeah, okay, yeah, go for it, because I do have like a way to wrap it up with a question. So
okay,
go for it.
So I think I'm gonna have to wait until I get the full rundown of the reviews, and I would like to hear more about the testing you both are doing. But it sounds like from these initial impressions that if there are no obvious benefits over a standard x86 laptop, I think for at least some section of normies out there, it doesn't sound like a laptop that I would be, Snapdragon wouldn't be a laptop I would be immediately recommending to people. Like, what's your take on that? Because it's kind of like, if they're still working on a couple of these bugs, like even the small ones where I think like in my head, it sounds like someone who's like, maybe been on Chromebook this whole time and wants to move into Windows, they're not going to care so much about like legacy support and like all these kinds of non-native apps. They'll kind of grow with the ecosystem maybe. But if you're talking about people who still have their printers from 17 years ago, who are still having flash drives with exe files on them and are used to being able to run them off of those flash drives instead of thinking I got to copy it to the hard drive, local drive, and then installing like all that. Like to me, I don't know if I'd recommend this to my parents immediately. You know what I mean? Like, because the minute something breaks even a little bit, maybe it's just selfish. I just don't want to have to feel those calls.
Can I answer? Well, give these guys some thoughts, even though I'm the one person here who has not touched a Qualcomm laptop yet.
You and I can debate this while they're thinking.
Yeah, I think I'm the opposite of you. I think I would mostly recommend these for normies who want a really nice, long-lasting computer and don't stray too far outside the mainstream. Like to me, if you spend most of your life in browser, in Netflix, in Office, that kind of thing, the Microsoft Surface, at least that we're testing so far, are awesome machines for that. And if you're not someone like I can think of two people, if you count Gordon, who I know in real life who still have a printer. So that's not a concern for a lot of people, is all that I'm saying.
Gordon has more printers.
Well, no, but that's what I'm saying though.
For
There's
other
like a
people.
subsection, right? Like I don't think we're actually in disagreement, Brad. I think that I'm focusing more like I don't mean to call everybody out here who's probably listening to us, but like I think we are that subsection of the population where we're at least familiar with people in our lives who are still remembering how things were done in the 90s and 2000s for computing and haven't really changed their process since then. But I agree that most people now who would be buying a laptop, and that's I think kind of what I was trying to imply when I was talking about moving off Chromebooks, like we have generations that like aren't necessarily carrying all that legacy stuff, right? Yeah, I don't think we're actually that far apart.
Okay,
but it's just that I was focusing on the legacy side a little bit.
For me, I'm gonna want to wait and see a few more laptop reviews because, to me, if you can conclusively say, every Qualcomm powered laptop gets really good battery life and runs everything that normies, let's say, run Netflix, browsers, blah blah blah, just fine. I think that makes an easy recommendation because right now, if you're buying AMD or Intel, you kind of have to think and do research into the specific part that you're buying. Like you could wind up with a chip that gives you terrible battery life, but decent performance. But if you just want all day battery life, Qualcomm might be your answer to take that extra element out of the buying process.
Wait, but the big question that I feel like I haven't heard addressed yet is pricing, because I think that's really going to influence it, right? Because it's like let's say what Gordon's getting in his testing, you're like 4 versus 5 hours, like it's close enough, right? They're almost comparable. But if one is $300 for a laptop, for example, and one is still $800, then yeah, obviously one's going to have a much higher appeal for that exact audience we were just talking about. But if they're comparably priced, I think it's also what I was thinking about in my head, where I'm like, if they're similarly priced, then I don't know if I would be immediately recommending the new tech to people, just because it's like it's a little bit safer just to kind of stick with for now while the bugs, the little foibles are getting worked out. If you're going to spend the same amount anyway.
Which actually, I mean, a lot of people in here, when they're talking about, well, this is unacceptable for this price of laptop, I think the thing is, yes, I get it, but I don't think that is because of Snapdragon, right? Like I mean, right now these are these high-end laptops or not high-end, whatever, $1,500-ish laptops is what's offered on the market right now, but that doesn't mean there won't be Snapdragon X laptops that are cheaper in the future, right? So like, yes, okay, that equation might not make sense for the price of these specific laptops, but I think, I don't know, at least for me, I'm poking at it from a Snapdragon angle. So if a $700 Snapdragon comes out, so a lot of these things apply, at least for me, so yeah.
But we'll have to see, right? We'll have to see if it hits that far down on the price point. So, and again, like we were talking about earlier with marketing and approach, if you're launching with $1,500 products, and it doesn't work out the gate, that's not exactly also how you want it to land in people's heads. So hopefully they're going to have a fuller stack that comes out pretty quickly so that it doesn't end up lingering as the impression.
Agreed. Yeah. Because I mean, if you're gonna at least for me, I'm not sitting here saying like, oh wow, I've been surprised by this. You should go out and buy this $1,500 laptop. Like I'm definitely not coming to that equation. But for me, it's more like, oh, I'm surprised that the Snapdragon platform alone is able to do the things that it's able to do. Like, but yeah, I mean. So my question to wrap it up was kind of along those actually same lines, was saying like, if somebody's sitting here right now and has to buy a laptop right now, would Gordon, would you recommend anyone or anybody else, would anybody recommend it right now? Or should it just be like, you know what, wait, Because I mean, it's nice that we're able to poke at it and be like, "Ooh, I'm curious. This is kind of fun." But in terms of hard buying recommendations, I think if some people are wanting it right now, would you recommend anyone go out and buy it right now, Gordon?
I would have to closely query them about how they use their laptop, what they do with their laptop, and again, I think people don't understand these are premium laptops. The Surface Laptop 7 13.8 inch is about, I think, $999. Starts at $999. We know starts at means 16 gigs with a 512 gig SSD, right? That's about $100 less than the Meteor Lake ZenBook 14 that starts at $1,100 with 16 gigs and 512 gig SSD. They're basically both premium laptops, though, and if you basically get them up to the recommended 32 gigs and 1 terabyte SSD, they're both going to be pushing similar prices. I would probably want to know what they want, because I know we didn't talk about, fan noise. The Surface laptop, the Snapdragon laptops, if you push it really hard and you have it set to best performance, the fan will come on. It will actually almost behave somewhat like a classic x86 laptop push hard, because again, it is pushing a lot of power, but the Surface laptop is still much, much quieter than the ZenBook. And in my experience, it is generally quieter than a sub 3-pound laptop when you're pushing it that hard. So if you are looking at a very quiet, not quite fanless experience, but if somebody's asking you what laptop they need to buy, are they really sitting there doing renders in Cinema 4D, or no? Are they pushing all 12 cores? No. They're for the most part, generically normal people who are going to run Chrome. I haven't installed TurboTax yet, but I have all faith that TurboTax will run perfectly fine on it.
Just
and
like a
I will
console.
do that before I'm done.
Yeah.
Our gold standard.
Because that is kind of an old school kind of thing, and a lot of the old school stuff generally works. Of course, obviously, we've talked about some of the stickiness with printers and old devices, but I would probably be more okay with saying, yeah, you can buy one of these. Some things that you run may not work, right? Like I'd want to know, like, are you running this old thing or are you running old stuff? And there is a good effect of having them buy this new laptop where, maybe it's time to let go of some of this old stuff. Maybe it's just time to let go of it. And, again, it's like the same thing of telling somebody they should buy a Chromebook, right? Chromebooks are not the same experience as Windows or Mac OS. And there's actually some really good things about having that person on a Chromebook, because it sort of forces them into the new world. They have to, like Cortez, you have to burn those old chips. And I don't really mind that. And actually, after using this laptop, I'm more comfortable with it than I was last week after we saw those early reviews of the Asus Vivo 15. I was like, oh my God, this is like, why the hell would I ever buy one of these when I could just buy standard x86 laptop and have everything work if it's this loud? But
Yeah.
the Surface laptop is a beautiful, solidly built, quiet laptop. It's a premium experience, and I honestly probably would be okay with it. I would definitely warn them, like, yeah, if you're running some old ass crap, and like if you're running something kind of bizarre, it might be time to go buy something newer. And again, if you're running an 18-year-old HP laser printer, that was an e-waste from work, maybe it's time to buy a brand new, really nice, tankless, inkjet printer with the scanner, flatbed, and everything, and have it Wi-Fi so they can put it somewhere else in their house. I'm actually more surprised by that attitude. I think actually for normal people, it's pretty good. So I'm more comfortable with it. As is for somebody who's more technically sophisticated. Yeah, I would want to wait and see what Ryzen AI 300 brings. I want to see what Lunar Lake brings, because I think that's going to give you all that fidelity you'll get out of Windows. And then I think there is this people are clinging to this, like, I need all this compatibility, which I get. But let's be honest, folks, Windows 11 does not work with everything. Like I have plenty of software just simply does not work with Windows 11. I have plenty of hardware that does not work with Windows 11. Microsoft is trying to shed old hardware as much as they can because they don't want to live with old legacy hardware as well. So this is not something that is only confined to Snapdragon-based laptops. They just want to get rid of people who do not want to give up 20-year-old pieces of crap because they got it free from work. And that is something that Microsoft is desperately trying to do. And they're going to do it either with Snapdragon or they're going to do it with AMD and Intel because they just don't want you, they want you to throw away that old crap because it is too much work to support it, right? You're not going to be able to run, I have some, radio programming software that does not run in Windows 11 because suddenly my cable that works with Windows 10 works. Now it doesn't work in Windows 11, right? I'm on x86. I'm on a desktop x86 machine. So don't pretend the entire world is like, oh, everything works. Yeah, if and those same people, if you're talking to that kind of person, I can tell you, go down to the pawn shop, go buy your 2.5-inch thick Dell laptop with a floppy drive still in it and PC card reader and never plug it into the internet because that's the kind of lifestyle you're going to live, right? I'm not as fearful of Snapdragon on as I thought I would be last week. Because last week I was like, this just does not make any sense.
It's a shame. It's a shame that last week those Asus laptops are the only ones that managed to get published the day of the original embargo, the launch day. Because I think that really was the worst foot forward. But there were supposed to be other reviews, like these service reviews, just for a peek behind the curtain for everyone else. But Microsoft recall made it very chaotic.
Yeah. Like I guess maybe the thing is again, if I were a developer and I need all of this sort of fidelity, that kind of weirdness and everything that works, x86 makes a lot more sense. A more sophisticated user that's really, really going to strive these really complicated, use case scenarios like Will would do or something like that. I would think x86 makes way more sense. For what I do, again, I'm the kind of person that I use my laptop like basically a Chromebook, an advanced Chromebook, right? And I honestly if you put me on a Snapdragon laptop, I'd probably be fine with it. That's been my experience after using this for a few days. I'd be okay with it. I'd still want to check out Lunar Lake and Ryzen 3, AI 300 because that's kind of me. But at the same time, for what I do, it's not gonna matter.
To Elena's point, though, it is missing that one thing to say, caveat. But holy crap, you get amazing battery life. There's nothing. And some of the people have said this in the chat too. There's nothing that you could say, it's a work in progress, but man, if you're into this thing, then 100% this is the thing you want to get into, right?
Yeah, the battery life messaging is very, very complicated. And again, I'm confused because I was looking at, the idle power consumption in Chrome and just browsing. So browsing on the Snapdragon X plug-in AC was about 5 watts and was about maybe 9 to 11 watts on Meteor Lake. Sometimes it would, creep back down to 7 to 6 watts, but oftentimes it was definitely using more power than it was running Chrome on Snapdragon X.
But not just battery life, I mean anything. If you want an NPU with the craziest performance, this is the thing you like. It feels like it's missing that one thing to say, but oh well,
it's recall. That was going to be the thing. It was going to be recall.
Yeah.
And now it's not. We actually have another piece up today on the website talking about the rest of the AI features, and they're nothing you have to rush out and go get, the Copilot stuff, whatever. It almost feels like I think this is a tremendous chip. I think Qualcomm has done excellent work here. I think a lot of the issues that we're seeing are almost more software related, and the reason that it runs so good is because the hardware is so damn good that it can just punch through it. It feels like these are going to be very, very good competitive laptops, possibly with great battery life or good to great battery life, depending on the model. But I can't help but feel like, man, I wish Qualcomm had gotten this out last year. If this had come out last summer, it would have just smoked everything and been amazing.
Yeah.
Like Arc.
Yeah, they were late. They were kind of late.
Yeah, so many analogies to Arc.
Yeah, but even with Arc, it never it never matched up to the competitor's best. And if it had come out last year, it would have been out before Meteor Lake. It would have been going up against, Raptor Cove cores, AMD 7000 cores. So gaming, AMD is always going to sort of be all over everybody. But it, honestly, it would have been up against, M3, M2 at that point. So
yeah,
it is from everything I can see. It's a pretty respectable chip. I would say it's a worthy chip. It is quite impressive, right?
It's still competitive.
You got to give them that, and it's a competitive chip, and it is really. I'm looking at the Handbrake results, doing the latest version of Handbrake, 4K encode, CPU-based AV1 encode. It's slightly faster than Meteor Lake. I'm looking at our Excel laptop recalc, and that thing is a punch you in the gut. It's slightly slower than the Meteor Lake, but it's right there. I mean, we're talking just seconds behind it. So it is really impressive. At the same time, that's plugged in 50 watt plus performance. So it's weird. It's like I would almost rather see like an 8-core version of this chip in a way, because having 12 cores, and it's like Qualcomm really should have said like, we'll shut down for the one of the clusters and just to give you better battery life and consume less power. And yeah, sure, you're not going to win all your benchmark race, but who cares? But unfortunately, everybody is really, really hung up in the benchmarks, and the benchmarks I think aren't everything here.
Well, and that's why I do think if there's cut down parts with cheaper options out there, that is going to be a whole nother equation to test. So, but yeah, we're an hour in and we should move off of Snapdragon questions.
We
should actually have the Q&A
Too much
blitz.
to talk about.
Sorry.
From our viewers.
Lots of Snapdragon questions. Lots of Snapdragon questions. Here, I'm just going to throw in here, friend of the show, Sneaky. Is AMD done yet, or will there still might be a 5800 XT X3D? I think he's talking about AM4. Any more AM4 CPUs coming out, you think? What's your guess, Gordon? Brad?
Go ahead, Gordon. No, go ahead, Gordon.
I would say 50-50 chance. Now that they've said that you are unlikely to see another one, probably means they're likely to see another one. Because, I guess one of the theories in the internet is like, well, they're making all these chips for Epic. We've got these dies. You know what? We're not going to put them in servers. They're going to be great desktop parts. Let's go ahead and throw them in there, right?
Brad, what do you think?
Yeah, now that they've said it, I am inclined to believe them. But at this point, I wouldn't be surprised if we see something else.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, yeah,
I wouldn't plan around it. I wouldn't plan my future upgrades around potential future announcements. You've already seen the top end of it, but
yeah. I mean, I'm surprised they're still going though. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if it's like, oh, actually, you know what? We've got a couple more. Like, all right, sure. Yeah. All right. Here we go. Friend of the show, Ziv, aka Mr. Brown. Just like the coffee I drank at Computex. Do you think it's the responsibility of tech reviewers and journalists to give new or resurgent competitors a boost in reviews for the sake of competition? Or should products be solely reviewed on hard metrics and subjective criteria without undue consideration of who made the product? Good question.
No, I think
last.
Huh?
Somebody else.
I'm gonna go last.
Oh, okay. I'll go first because I have thoughts on this one. I saw this in Discord. I've had time to ruminate on it. So I think people often fundamentally misunderstand what the job of a reviewer is. And I mean, I can't speak for everybody here, but I think from my perspective, I don't think anybody sees themselves as a I guess in the old days they would call it a kingmaker, but like some kind of like who's the ruling class, right?
Except for Brad, he's got a tattoo.
Except for Brad. Apparently we have very different thoughts on this. But I think of my job as somebody who is trying to, I guess for lack of a better term, serve the people, right? So like when I go into that, I'm like, is that something that I think people are going to be interested in? And if yes, then I want to see how it works. I want to see how well it does. I want to see if it's worth supporting that company by buying their product. And I don't mean that in the sense of like, you only give them money because you just want to support them, but in the sense of like, you're putting your money where you think it matters, right? So if you're going to take your hard-earned cash and put it towards something, you should go into the decision informed. So I see my job as being able to give that information, right? So a lot of times when I'm looking at products to review, I'm thinking, okay, like, does this serve a population out there that would be interested enough that they want to have this information? If yes, can I fit that into my schedule? Can I convince Brad to give me time to cover this? Because I think it's cool that like somebody wanted to make this product for this group of people, and I think it's going to be good for them to have those people to have that information. At this point, I'm just repeating myself, but that's basically what I think of as the job. Not, well, someone revived the Atari name and they're going to put out a product, so I guess I'm going to have to review it just because it's coming back. Like, that's not how I would think of it. It's more like I'm using this example still because they fizzled back out, but in an imaginary world, if Atari's name was revived and they actually put out another product that's like, hey, it's like our new take on a vintage console or something, I would go, oh, does it look solid enough that I'd want to cover that? If it does, great. Let's see if we can fit on the schedule. And if not, then it's cool that the name came back, but we'll wait until something's worth covering, I guess.
Well, Ziv didn't say this, but I think a good example of this is more along the lines of ARC, right? A lot of people were looking at ARC to be like, hey, we really want competition in the GPU space, so let's give a ton of attention to, hopefully get attention and get, competition. So he's saying, should you boost in reviews for the sake of competition? Meaning, hey, let's look at this specifically because we want more competition in the space. I mean, same thing for Snapdragon. I think
that's conflating a couple of things, though, right? Like, I don't think it's wrong to, I mean, from that perspective, I don't think it's wrong to form that perception of why something is covered, right? But I think, and maybe it's a failing on our part as journalists that we're not being clear enough about those two things not necessarily being conflated, which is that one, in general, yes, it is good to see competition out there, but two, we're not covering things just for the sake of competition, right? Like, let's say a fourth party would enter the ring, right? So in theory, if you're going by this concept that competition, just blanket competition is good, we would want to cover it because competition is good. But when we're actually making that decision, if that fourth player were to come in and we looked at the specs and we kind of looked at what their roadmap was like and like how it was launching, and it didn't seem like it was actually a product that would be something that was baked enough to cover, I don't think we would cover it. Maybe some outlets would out of curiosity and they have the time or they have the ability to like deep dive and dissect what's going on with it, but maybe not all outlets, right? And so, I mean, that's a good question. Like, from my perspective, maybe it is a thing where we have to be more careful about how we frame our conversations so that people understand that those two things sometimes can overlap, but they're not necessarily deeply intertwined, at least not from my perspective.
Do you want to go, Gordon, or should I hop in?
I would. Well, so, I mean, can you read the original question to make sure I answer it correctly?
Do you think it's the responsibility of tech reviewers and journalists to give new or resurgent competitors a boost in reviews for the sake of competition?
No, I don't think it's our job to promote something just simply because a field needs competitive product. I think it's our job to review it if it's something that consumers might potentially be spending their money on. And if they are making, and I don't want to step all over Brad's answer because I know he's got a lot to say here. In the example being ARC, a lot of people thought there was this narrative of media covering it and pushing it because people wanted something to break the duopoly of NVIDIA and AMD. And I actually think the reason why ARC was worthy of covering is because it was something that was trying to take your money, right? So Intel wanted your money for a product, so we need to look at it. They're offering the product. We reviewed it. We gave our honest assessment of that product. You go out, you take your wallet, you open it up, you hand over the money. And, and also people need to remember the time when ARC launched wasn't a great time for GPUs, right? It was really, really hard to get a GPU, period. So it was yet one more alternative in a really terrible time to get a GPU. So I think it's worth it. I don't think if like S3 Verge suddenly introduced a new graphics card, do we want to cover it only because now we want a fourth player? not only because I don't think we would want to review because we're a fourth player, but we should review it because you know what? It's something interesting. It's somebody that could potentially take your money. And there are a lot of people who are going to see S3 Verge and they may go out and buy it because they have no idea. They just sort of assume all graphics cards are the same. So as a reviewer, your job is to take it, evaluate it, and to give you the opinion. Like I'm not going to talk too much further because Brad probably has all kind of opinions here, but no, our job is not to simply promote competition. Our job is simply to review it if it is a product that a consumer might buy. So I think even though they both may follow the same road, I don't think our job is necessarily to promote competition. But it is still something you want to review everything that's brand new that's possible because that's what you want to do as a reviewer. Go, Brad.
Yeah, I actually don't have too much to say, but yeah, I would get irritated if anybody came up to me and said we should run more articles around this topic because this category needs more competition. I want this product to be it. Because it is not our job to identify who and who isn't competitive in the market, aside from the raw performance of whatever product it is, be it hardware, software, whatever. I agree with basically the blending of what both of y'all said. We review things to help people know where to spend their money and what's worth their money and the caveats involved. We don't review things for the companies, although we do also strive to be fair to the companies. There have been times when some of us has caught grief from the internet because of different data or perspectives that we had that we felt were fair to the companies, so we don't necessarily hop on dog piles. That's a tangent. But yeah, we write for y'all. Like that's the heart of it. Like we write for people. And if in the case of art, because we'll keep going back to that, it's not our responsibility to continue covering it. But if the cards are getting so much better, then it is not our responsibility to cover it, but it's my responsibility to you guys who are listening and watching this right now. Like I want you guys to have the information to be able to buy smart. Because like the initial ARC review was not very good, but 6 months later, a bunch of those things are gone. So that's why we had Keith's series going in, every month. Here's what's going on with ARC. Companies can be smart about how they handle marketing to kind of encourage this. I think Intel did that really, really smartly, actually. Because I never went back and updated my original ARC review because to me, reviews are testaments of the time. I'm a big fan. I'm a big believer in standing up to history. Like this is what it was like out of the gate. I don't want to revise it. But Intel would do stuff like, every couple of months, they're like, okay, 50 more games are 50% faster in DirectX 11. So people like us, that makes us more interested in being like, okay, well, I should test this and see if that's true, which naturally leads itself to more coverage. And then 3 months later, like, oh, check out this cool new feature. In addition, we're getting 20% faster in DirectX 12. So they were really smart in how they handled their press releases and their announcements in ways that encourage press to do it. But I don't think press has any responsibility whatsoever to try to encourage competition.
Yeah, and I'll wrap it up by saying, like, I think there's a difference between something new coming out and we're excited to kind of poke around at it, like Snapdragon, right? But we're also then not coming to the conclusion of saying, okay, here's the conclusion. You should buy this because, yeah, it's not great, but you should buy this because we want more competition. Like we're not, like that's a different kind of caveat. we can be curious and we can also, like to Elena's point, be hopeful personally that there is more competition. But at the end of the day, if the results are the results and you don't have a clear person to say, hey, well, X, Y, and Z should buy it for this, or this. If our only conclusion is, well, it's not great, but you should buy it just because you want competition, that's not what we're here for. Yeah.
And I want to make this a very specific point, piggybacking off of Adam's statement here, because I don't think people on the internet always listen carefully to wording. And there is a big difference between somebody saying, well, given the performance, we can see some people buying it because they want to support competition in the marketplace. Or if you're an early adopter and you care about competition, then this could be the card for you. And that's one set of statements that is different than saying what Adam just said, which is, oh, well, we think you should buy it because it makes for competition in the market. So be mindful of how people are phrasing the statement as well. Like it's easy to kind of like, as you're listening to a bunch of information, collapse it down in your head to what like you think the essence of it is. But sometimes those nuances and wording are actually really important too.
Yeah. Okay.
Before you get on your ponies.
Sorry. Friend of the show, Ivan, asks, latest Windows 11 requires not only TPM 2.0, but also Copilot Plus certified platform. In light of looming death of Windows 10, should we be outraged or should we obey and upgrade our hardware once again? We were kind of talking about this earlier, but
I feel like we should wait to see what happens.
Yeah, the thing is, the issue right now is Windows 11 2.4 H2 second half 24 update is currently in preview testing with Windows Insiders, and you can only run it on Qualcomm-powered PCs at this point. Copilot Plus PCs, although at this point Qualcomm are the only ones out. And so people are freaking out and thinking that means this update will only run on, Copilot Plus PCs in the future. I don't think that's the case. I don't think this is going to be a hard this is what they're doing right now as they figure out recall to run on Copilot Plus PCs. That's the reason they pulled this back into the preview thing. I think that we will, of course, see some sort of semi-unified Windows 11 going forward. Like, you're going to be able to. I'm not worried about this whatsoever. I'm losing the plot. Sorry.
no worries.
Yeah.
But no, I'm not worried whatsoever about this being split. I don't think this is Microsoft trying to say you have to get a Copilot Plus PC now. I think Copilot Plus has been a bit of a chaotic launch, and they're trying to get their ducks in order, and then it'll roll out to everybody else once recall's figured out.
I mean, it doesn't help that they have come out with like Windows 11 launch with all these requirements, right? So again, theme of the show from my perspective today is talking about setting expectations appropriately and managing people's perceptions of what those expectations should be, right? So I don't think it's far-fetched for people to be like, whoa, wait a second, is this what's coming down the pipeline? Given how Microsoft has been kind of handling this in the past. At the same time, we've also, like you were just saying, Brad, we've also seen Microsoft backtrack on a lot of things because they realize that maybe this like grand vision they have, this ideal, is not actually going to work out in reality. So I think like we would probably all say just wait to see what happens because there's no, let your ponies rest sometimes. They have to like, take their time in the stables and sleep and eat their hay and stuff.
Yeah,
I wouldn't be surprised if that day comes with Windows 12. I've said that before. Windows 12, I wouldn't be surprised, but I don't think they would pull a bait and switch in the middle of this.
Yeah. At this point, wait and see if we should be outraged or if we should obey and upgrade our hardware once again. So, TBD. The Funk Ma Na Mana.
Say it fast.
This might be Gordon's fake account. Did you guys see any NVMe manufacturers showing off 8 terabyte M.2 drives at Computex? I didn't really look. Gordon, did you see anything from the distance?
No, but there have been plenty of 8 terabyte SSDs for a while. They ain't cheap. So
M.2 ones?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
M.2, they've been out since Gen 3 days, to be honest. They're just not, they haven't gotten very affordable. In fact, I was looking at picking one up at a certain point. I was thinking about like, maybe I should just get a SATA 8 terabyte drive. So, but no, I didn't see any news. I'm sure they do have some capacities. I don't think they're at the highest end performance curve, but that's again because M.2 is a terrible, terrible form factor that everybody has glommed onto and will not let go of. If you're trying to think like I'm going to get M.2, 8 terabytes, Gen 5 at 14 gigs a second onto a stick that is sandwiched under my GPU with the, 12 or 20 watt TDP limit? No, I don't think that's going to happen. They'll be fairly slow.
Second question from them. Can Windows for ARM run on a Pi SoC? So have we seen anybody test Windows for ARM on a Pi?
I don't think you might be able to get that ISO file in some way on the internet, but Microsoft doesn't make those easily available, I don't think.
Yeah, not yet.
Huh.
Yeah, especially the Copilot one. There is Windows available for Raspberry Pi, and you can install it, but that's separate from the build with
It's
Copilot.
very pared down, if I remember
Very.
right.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
extremely so.
But that's not. I have never seen. I don't believe it is Windows on ARM Copilot plus PCs are not available as an ISO officially.
Friend of the show, Pyrocumulus, is a Nook that's over 2 liters still a Nook? This one's for Elena.
I answered this question on the Discord server because I was like, yes. And I just like dropped this link to my review of like the 5-liter, was it Ghost Canyon Nook. And then it got bigger. So like theirs were like getting increasingly larger, the gaming ones. I don't know where Asus is going to take it. I think they're probably just going to end up focusing on like the bread and butter stuff, which is the little 4x4s that, you know, are used for the displays and like other things.
Yeah, I feel like that's what they were showing off at Computex too.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, actually
That's
here.
mostly what they had at CES.
Yeah, I just Googled Asus Nook, and the top one goes to their Nook overview. And the first line is, what is a Nook? It's more than a 4x4 mini PC. It's a wide portfolio of devices. So
yeah, I mean, they might still, if like someone that division, you know, has the budget and, you know, the passion for it, we could see more random cool gaming type Nooks come out. I hope so. That was always fun. But I mean, it's always been a product that catered really to enterprise. You know, that like the 4x4 thing may not seem very appealing to a lot of consumers. I run them because they're easy to move around my desk, and they take less real estate than a laptop for how I do my software testing stuff. But that's already kind of an enterprise-ish application, right? Like I'm not your typical home user. So, I mean, companies are buying this in bulk, you know, so they can power signage and, you know, other digital displays and stuff like that. I think they're used a lot at trade shows. I've seen them at trade shows before.
Yep.
So.
They also ask, what network hardware is Gordon using with his god-tier internet connection at home?
Boy, I'm still using that older Asus router. I can't remember the model number on it, but I wrote a story about it.
It's even got Wi-Fi 7?
No, it doesn't. It doesn't even have Wi-Fi 6E. It's like the Wi-Fi actually is pretty old school on it, but it at the time it was the only router that actually had 10 gig in and also 10 gig out. So, but it does require SFP plus out. So my new desktop only has 10 gig Ethernet. So I had to throw away my SFP plus connectors, and I converted I'm using an SFP plus transceiver, and that plugs into, you know, just over copper because I'm not going very far to my desktop. So, but I'm not quite I'm getting decently good performance, but I'm noticing it's been a little slower lately, so I'm guessing they must have more customers in the area. So.
That's not okay, Gordon. You need to keep up with that 10 gig, that god tier internet.
Jealous.
Only getting 9.999 as opposed to 10.
That's horrible. It's horrible. Master Procrastinator just threw one in the Discord. How frequent should you do a fresh Windows install? Ooh, I like this one.
There's a lot of different opinions on this show alone about that.
Yeah. All right. I'm going to start with
Adam,
Gordon.
you want to go first?
No. I'll start with Gordon.
I got one actually update because people did ask about any Computex 8 terabyte SSDs.
Yeah.
I didn't pay that close attention, but I will point out that AData did announce they have this new laptop. It's built for AI computing, by the way, folks.
Oh, good.
And
Wait, they put AI in the computer?
Yeah, so it's basically a workstation laptop that they have. It will offer up to 96 gigabytes of RAM. I mean, I believe that's using... I got a little confused because they had asked him some questions, had express card and all that stuff. And also a 24 terabyte SSD. So obviously... They didn't say what SSD, huh?
One single 24 terabyte SSD?
It just says simply 24 terabytes. It doesn't say which one, and it's actually 14. They're saying that that SSD will hit 14 and 12. So,
wow,
Gen 4, I think.
All right.
By the way, sorry, what's my question?
Right. How frequently should you do a fresh Windows install?
I would do it when it's a new computer or some things are broken, because I just think it's just too risky because you're going to erase something that you need. Windows has gotten a lot better at that, but I'm not the one that's going to go and wipe everything out, burn it to the ground just for fun. It's usually with a new machine. Like my last machine, I never installed it for years. And the previous one, my Windows 8.1 machine, I ran that for probably 7 years without ever obviously reinstalling because I had so many things buried in different weird places that I didn't want to take a risk on burning it. So no, I don't think you should do it.
Follow-up question: should you reuse OS install drives on new machines? Like, be like, you know what? I've got Windows 11 already on this one. I'm just going to pull it and throw it in.
No, never.
No, never.
I actually have a thought to the Windows thing.
Okay, yep.
But yeah, no, never. No, nay, never. We actually ran an article translated from our German colleagues in PCWorld recently. They think what they do out there, I was actually talking to some of them, is they try to reset their PCs once a year. Just because, Windows degrades over time, little bugs, install files stuffed in places that didn't fully reinstall, stuff like that. And good for them. If I had a thoroughly locked down backup system and I was so inclined, I can see the point of doing that once a year when you clean out your, it's the Christmas break, you're cleaning out your PC anyway, give a reset, put anything you need back on. It's like a new computer. But the way I personally do it is what I've talked about before. The way I handle overclocking, I don't do it out of the box anymore. What I do is I run parts stock, and when they start to feel a little bit slow around Windows, that's when I'll overclock. And that's also when I'll do a fresh Windows install. I'll back everything up to a hard drive, reset the operating system, overclock my chip, and then move what I need back on. And it's like breathing new life in the computer. So that's just how my cheap behind operates.
Elena?
I'm kind of more in Gordon's camp, although I've been for years, and I'm kind of staring at it right now. I've had this idea that I'm going to finally centralize all of my documents on like a NAS, so I don't have to worry about how often I need to like worry about leaving behind important files like Gordon's talking about. Because I do the same thing, right? Like if I build a new computer, I do a fresh install, and I basically keep the old storage drive as like almost a backup of those files even after I transfer things, just in case I've forgotten something. I'm just too paranoid about like overwriting it. And I keep telling myself, it's like, well, Elena, if you just actually put all your documents on a NAS, they would live there. And then you could just blow away that install and not have to worry so much that like something important's on there, or there'd be fewer places on it to have to like double check, right? That's the theory. The execution is literally years in the making. So, no, I don't reinstall very often. I don't do a fresh install very often.
Well, but how frequently should you? Is the question.
Should is a relative term.
Should.
I'm going off my own.
If I'm going
off my own behavior, if I'm going off my own behavior, you should do it if things are starting to go south. But how often is that happening to me? Not very often these days. In terms of like throwback here, when I used to run Windows 98, I was literally having to do a fresh install of that every like four to 6 months for the first couple of years before I said, what the bleep is this? Like, I am tired of it. And my friend who was working at the school IT department was like, you should try Windows 2000. I swear to God, I'm not a touching person, but I wanted to hug that man. I was like, wow, my uptime is now like multiple months and counting. Like that thing was rock solid. I still miss that operating system so bad. So I'm not the best example of, proper PC belt style spring cleaning for your PC. I guess winter cleaning, maybe.
I wouldn't call it proper. I'd call that excessive. To get away from the anecdotes and get to an actual answer, like I think Gordon pretty much had it right. Like if it starts to get buggy over time, Windows these days, they've really optimized it. It doesn't degrade anywhere nearly as bad as it used to. Yeah. But on my Windows 10 PC, that rest in peace, after years of updating all the major updates and whatnot, it was just starting like the icons would flash on the taskbar and copy and paste wouldn't work right and stuff, or just random buggy stuff like that. When I reset it, a lot of those things went away. So if Windows starts to act weird on you, give a reset a try. I wouldn't worry about it other than that.
Yeah, and one reason I'm a proponent of local file storage. I know not everybody is, but
yeah, Deadu said, "Wait, people keep files locally still? Did I hit my head up and wake it up in 2010?"
Yeah, because there's something nice about storing everything on. Again, if I'm working with a whole ton of raw files and I'm writing it to my local M.2, that's a Gen 4 drive that's in my machine. Yeah, I know the NAS is nice, but it's not likely to touch what I'm getting out of my local
cloud. That's still
M.2,
local,
right? So I just think there's if I have this performance locally, I like to use it, and if it's gotten that kind of weird and buggy, it's probably time to basically throw away all the hardware. I'm just that kind of person too, because generally now you're like so many generations of CPUs and SSDs and capacity. It's just better to simply archive that old machine and build a new one, right? So why keep on trying to make an old turd run? So
That's a saying.
So just mark that for the Willis. Mark this for your end of the year.
Why try
reel.
to keep an old turd running?
Ahead of you.
yeah, I mean, do you think resetting your POS machine, Sandy Bridge, is going to suddenly magically make it better?
Stop insulting my machine.
See?
Rude.
I mean, it doesn't.
He just
doesn't
called that
magically
Sandy Bridge
fix
machine
everything.
an old turd.
No, I wish I could reach over and cover its ears. It doesn't deserve this
You're not still
treatment.
using that, are you?
Oh,
how are we
silence.
defining
Crickets.
use?
Where's the cricket button?
How are we defining use?
Yeah. So
What about you, Adam?
for normal use, I agree. If it's if you're just browsing the web and you're doing your basic kind of work stuff, then yeah, either you look at, do I need to upgrade my hardware? At that point, you're doing a clean install anyway, or maybe if you're doing some sort of troubleshooting, and that's part of your troubleshooting step. For me, if I feel like if you're relying on a machine for work, and you need to make sure that thing is making you money, then you do a fresh install every 6 to 12 months, because
That's fair.
not only with that, like for me, it's proper file management, and I want at any point to say if I were to somehow lose that machine by a problem or some sort of natural disaster, or a virus or something came through and wiped out, or who knows, I want to be at any moment be able to say, okay, you know what, I'm going to swap it out for a new machine and I didn't lose anything. It's because I either backed up stuff to a NAS, I backed up stuff to another central storage thing, or I backed it up to the cloud. I want to be able to swap in at any point and put in a new machine and be like, oh, okay, I'm back up and running. I don't want to have to be like, oh man, where did I save those files? Oh man, what driver executable did I have? Like I like my machines running as cleanly as possible, and especially in production environments, sometimes you're like, okay, what plugins do I have installed? And sometimes you don't use those plugins anymore. A clean install makes it all fresh, and then it forces you to be like, okay, well, what do I actually need right now? Because sometimes maybe I downloaded a plugin just to mess around with, and I didn't end up using it. So it gives me kind of a fresh look. That's just me. I know that's a little more on the extreme side, but I feel like,
That's a great answer, actually, and that's part of why I love having you on the show.
Well,
You
so
bring
follow-up question.
that's a very valid, I never would have thought of that perspective, but that's a great perspective.
Yeah, follow-up question to that though. Do you not image so that you can get back up running faster if something disastrous were to happen?
I could, but I feel like I try to run my system as clean as possible, that I don't need to do a ton of stuff. Like, it probably wouldn't save me much time. I mean, I and also, to tell you the truth, it's something I've never explored really too much, like imaging stuff. So I would be down to look into it. But I mean, yeah, I try to keep work-related machines as clean as possible. So,
That makes sense. It's basically like a digital version of a desktop. spoiler, I am a messy person at home, but when I'm at an office, I keep my desk whistle clean. I need it to be very easy to find everything quickly.
Well, and it's also another reason why I personally like to store things on drives. Like, so I like in a system, I have a 512 gig in where I just put the OS install, and that's fine enough size wise because I'm not really putting anything on that drive. Everything work stuff is on its own drive, and then I can transit, put it into a new machine. Gaming's on its own drive. I can put that into a new machine. Like I like to segment that kind of stuff out, so that helps when I'm doing clean wipes. So anyway,
to piggyback on that question, our awesome contributor Will Smith on the chat here is asking, are there any good free tools to image a drive in Windows these days?
It's a good question. Yeah.
Not in Windows, but there are good free tools out there. I know we write about them on PCWorld, best free backup tools, and they have image stuff in there. I couldn't tell you what they are off the top of my head because I don't image myself. So, but Windows itself does not let you create ISOs like that.
Well, if it does, it's just that it's basically the Windows 7.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It's so like it hasn't been
modern.
surfaced in such a long time. It is actually something they need to work on. They've tried to do that with that file restore thing, but it seems like that is set up for like real time, always plugged in. And I kind of miss that feature. I'm jealous of the feature from Mac OS where you can plug in an external drive and it basically backs up all your files to it. It's backed up, you unplug the drive and
Time Machine, you mean, right?
They just need to make that for Windows already. Just make Time Machine for Windows.
They do. Honestly, that's a
do.
feature that we definitely need.
I miss Time Machine.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen back in the dark ages when everyone still had like hard disk drives in their laptops, I finally convinced my friend to upgrade to an SSD in his MacBook. And I was like, how did it go? Like transferring your whole system over? He's like, oh, it's really easy on Mac. Like I just do Time Machine, like basically put it to a backup drive, then just restored it. And I was like, damn, that's like one thing I wish we did have for Windows. Because I was anticipating having to have to Google answers for him because I don't really use Mac that much and I didn't know his level of proficiency. He's like, no, I got it handled. I was like, whoa, I'm off the hook.
Nice. A couple more questions and we'll get out of here. Friend of the show, Datus, asked, recently LTT published a video about de-Googling your life. With Android on 71% of cell phones globally, is that even possible? What meaningful options do consumers really have to break up with Google? Going Apple feels like trading bad for worse.
It's been a while. I haven't really done it, but I think the project before Lineage OS, CyanogenMod, they actually, I think for a while, they had ISOs or whatever the images are called for flashing on an Android phone that was like de-Googlified. I don't know if Lineage OS still does that. There's a member in our Discord server who's still active with that. I haven't been since I switched to a Pixel phone because unlocking the bootloader on Pixel phones got really difficult for a while. So I just ended up running off stock and I stopped flashing mods on my phones. That was like a way to do it. Like if you flash a custom ROM on your Android phone, basically jailbreaking it. You're rooting it and then flashing that on there. That was a way to be able to avoid Google apps from the jump. But it's kind of like, I would kind of equate it to like the Linux experience, right? Where it's like, you can go that route, but you're definitely going to have to do a lot more tinkering and being more active about figuring out your workarounds. At least that's what it was like in the old days when I was still more active with it.
I'm intrigued by this question. Where is this? I just found it while she was talking. 6 years ago, I think it was, Kashmir Hill, who was an outstanding privacy and security, mostly privacy reporter, who I believe works for the New York Times now. She was working at Gizmodo, and she did a 6-part series on how do I get the tech giants out of my life. So she spent a video and an article stripping Amazon out of her life, stripping Facebook out of her life, etc. Google was actually the hardest for her because of all the back end stuff. Like you can get rid of Gmail. You can, like functionally you can stop using all the Google consumer services and get by fine, but it powers so many different parts of the web that they would then go in and try to block using like pie holes and stuff to truly get rid of Google. And it just wound up breaking everything. So functionally, I think it'd be really hard to de-Google. But I think practically, like, you know, you could use OneDrive or Dropbox instead of Google Drive. You can use LibreOffice. You can. There's options out there. You can do it at a nuts and bolts functional level.
That's always the trade-off, right? The ease of use and having everything in one ecosystem versus, you know.
Yeah. It's the reason I'm still on Chrome, man, because it ties into everything in workplaces.
Same.
I shouldn't tell that. Don't hack me. But yeah, I'm using Chrome.
Gordon, what do you think? Would you ever try to de-Google your life?
It's too impossible, I think, because if you use Android, what are you going to do, right? That's
Yeah.
You could switch. It would just make sense simply to switch to the one that's spying on you and keeping all of your data in a different kind of way. So I get.
They're all harvesting.
Yeah, I don't. That seems like the only realistic answer is to switch to iOS, and then at that point, it's kind of weird because the intermixing of you know, as we've been learning over the last few months that Apple actually uses Google's products quite a bit more than we expected as subcontractors within their operating systems. I know that they kind of want to retain control, but it just feels like at this point, there's really you'd have to move into a shack, live with Ted Kaczynski at this point. I don't know what you can do anymore.
At this point, I think realistically, if you're somebody who's not willing to go through the literal probably pain of going off the grid, so to speak, you know, weaning yourself off all the major tech giants, is that your best bet is to split between them, right? So like you keep one email address for personal correspondence, you keep another one for all your shopping. You have a third one for your financial stuff, which honestly, in my opinion, is not a bad route to go through for a security perspective as well, just because of like how all this data breaches are going, right? So like if you have like a separate shopping email address and that gets breached, it's not necessarily as like risky that someone could get access to your financial information if they're trying to like phish and get your information for your email account, right? So, and then also it spreads the data, because the one good thing we, quote unquote, good thing we have going for us with the tech giants and their data collection is that they don't really want to share that with each other. Right? So, because that's like the proprietary information they're using to power their businesses. So if you split it between them, they don't have as full a picture of you. They're going to have some, they're probably still buying stuff off the data broker markets and stuff, but it's like, you can at least try to put a little short fence against the wind blowing at you.
For the person who asked the question and anyone else who's interested in this, possibly because of LTT's video, Google, I cut Google out of my life. It screwed up everything. It's on Gizmodo. It's a super fascinating read. I was just skimming through it, and like she couldn't use Uber or Lyft because they're powered by the Maps API. So while they were hard blocking all the Google servers, she had to take a bus or walk. She couldn't use Spotify because that's all hosted on the Google Cloud. So she had to figure out, you know, alternatives to that. Like de-Googlifying yourself is a lot more difficult than you think.
Yikes.
Wow.
All right. Last question from friend of the show, Great Mighty Daddy. Do you see a point where Valve will blow out the Steam Deck at a $1 price point akin to what happened with the Steam Link and the Steam controller, so Gordon can stock up on Steam Decks in bulk so he can give them away for birthdays and other special occasions as he did with the Steam Link and Steam controller?
Oh, that is someone who definitely has been keeping up with the show. Thank you for being a regular. Good to have you.
Yeah, I think the reason they were blowing out all those Steam Links is because nobody wanted to buy the damn things, except for
I
the
loved
cheap
them.
people.
I loved
Except
them
for you.
Yeah, you want one, Brad? Another few.
Yeah, he's like, oh, I got one up there, I got one up there.
I ain't gonna play. I had 3 until they burnt down.
The Steam Deck obviously is a huge success. There's no reason they would ever blow them out for $1. So
yeah, I don't.
Hardware's too expensive too.
Yeah.
A+ question though.
Yeah, no, but I can't imagine a time where I mean, Steam Decks are already doing so much better than Steam machines, Steam controllers, Steam Links ever did. So I can't imagine.
And they're cheaper than ever right now. Like I haven't picked one up yet, but right now it's the lead up to the summer sale, and they're cheaper than ever. So I'm pretty tempted.
So good. Yeah, so good. All right.
But they're still $300.
Yeah. Wait, somebody in the chat said, Robert Lawrence said, I want a Gordon stocking stuffer Steam Deck.
Yeah, wouldn't that be funny? You could probably put them out like, you ever tried to put the candy out for Halloween? That failure of an exercise? It's like always testing humanity. You always like, we did it this year. We're like, oh, let's just put the candy out on the porch.
What, just people dump the whole thing in a bag, or
It was just like,
gone
yeah,
5
it was
minutes
like, it
later.
lasted like,
Oh.
30 minutes. It's like,
yeah.
Well,
man, you want to start putting like, okay, I'm going to put some remote explosives in there too. It's just like, it's just like,
boy.
it just always like
I
disappoints you.
think that's illegal.
It's not illegal if it's some kid that's basically taking like
I'm not going to
huge
Gordon's house for
handfuls of the
Halloween.
candy.
no.
And you just like click, click, click.
Wait,
It just blows up the candy is what I'm saying. I'm just, you
Wait.
could put the Steam
Just
Decks, if
candy.
you piled the Steam Decks out there, like nobody would take them. The
It's
kids
not,
would like,
it's
they'd
not like
be
those
like,
cherry
what?
bombs.
you mean like Gordon Mong, the Silicon Sage? We've got more cores than a pineapple grenade,
Yeah.
according to Copilot Plus.
That's where they got it from.
That's where they got it from. They knew Gordon was hiding the grenades
Predictive.
in
It's
the
the
Halloween
Minority
candy.
Report coming
Yeah.
to life.
Oh, wow.
That doesn't
Oh.
disappoint you? Like,
I
I was like, this is not going to work. And of course it did not work. And it's just like, no, it just,
Yeah.
like I said, you want to put like, it makes you want to like put the candy out there, like they have to do the
With a
whole
grenade.
Indiana Jones thing. No, like that whole Indiana Jones thing. Like you got to be like dive out of the way of the blade and then do this, and like you get to that one piece of candy, okay.
Dang, what is at your house, man? Yeah.
No, it's just candy. You can't just put the candy in the bowl.
It just
in the
can't.
front.
It's just candy. Come on down. Dodge some blades and hand grenades.
You put out there, and then with a camera that says you're being surveillance, and you begin this. The amount of candy you're taking will be published on the internet.
Oh, there's like Mark Robert from
Mark Rober did a video on this.
The glitter bomb thing in the Bay Area.
Well, no, it wasn't glitter bomb. He did one for Halloween where
Oh.
like it would be recording and monitoring, and then all of a sudden it would throw it up as a news broadcast alert on the TV, so they saw themselves in real time as like candy thieves. Good video.
Oh.
It was actually a pretty funny video.
Check that
Yeah.
out.
Well, that basically would be everybody. It would
Yeah.
be 90% of the kids. So.
Yeah, and you know what? Yeah, I feel like in that video, a good portion of them like saw it and were just like, yeah, whatever, I don't care.
Those kids would not want the Steam. They would like push aside the pile of the Steam links. They're like, what is this piece of crap?
Like, I think my grandpa had one of those. Anyway, yeah. Gordon, let's take us out of here. We're done. We're wrapping.
Oh, I
up.
got to find my notes
Yeah.
now. Sorry, I was just being disappointed in humanity there. So, they all do it. They all do it. Check back next week for your fix of PC Talk on the Full Nerd. For audio listeners, subscribe to us on iTunes, Pocket Cast, or Spotify. And if you're on one of those services, please leave a review. Every time you do, some greedy-ass kid grabs 5 handfuls of candy from the bowl that says, please take one piece of candy at Halloween.
We don't want
saying
that.
Question. Yeah, do we want that?
No, we don't want that.
No.
So,
Oh.
if we want people to leave a review and good things happen, not bad things.
Yeah, well, that's the bad thing.
Apparently, that's good in Gordon's world.
Yeah.
It's what you expect of the world. So send questions and comments to thefullnerd at PCWorld.com. Thanks for coming. I'm Gordon Ung with Brad Charkis,
apparently I overclocked the Raspberry Pi to see if I could.
Elaine Yee,
Apparently, I can tell benchmarks from just or frame rates from just looking at a screen.
Adam Patrick Murray.
Oh man, I got to it late. I was going to have it write an outro for us. But yeah, no, sorry. Next time, Copilot Plus. Thank you.
And Willis Lai is grabbing handfuls of candy from the basket as we speak.
He does.
I'm actually running in Taiwan time at 4 a.m. right now, so I'm going to need to take a bit of a nap. So yeah, thank you everyone for tuning in, and we will see you next time. Bye.
Don't cut it yet. Here's the true outro from Copilot Plus, and that wraps up another exhilarating episode of the Full Nerd, where we dove deep into the silicon seas, surfed the waves of RAM latency, and overclocked our enthusiasm.
That is some bad copy.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Oh my goodness. Okay, bye.
Bye.